Welcome. I am so excited to introduce you all to Faith Clarke, who is an organizational health and inclusion specialist. And she works with organizations that are committed to healthy workplace culture. She helps people by creating systems that integrate human motivation. And we share the belief that the strength of your team is dependent on your work ecosystem. Faith and I met online quite a few months ago and decided to get together to have a series of conversations around workplace rituals and the benefits of belonging, how that decreases turnover. Our conversation goes into a lot of really interesting areas. So I'm excited to bring this conversation to you. People have this problem where they do interviewing and then they do onboarding and then someone leaves in the first month or the second month that they're, with the organization. And so why does that happen? What's your take on that?
I'm a fanatic around inclusion and belonging. And I think that when people connect well with community, it's harder for them to leave. It kind of triggers their sense of loyalty. When people are transactional about work, which many of us are and have had to be because work has been transactional with humans. Like that's how the workplace has treated us as humans. But when humans are transactional about work and they feel like they don't belong, other opportunities can easily cause people to move along. And the first, like 2 to 6 months, people are loosely tethered to the organization. So the newness and the novelty quickly fades and it becomes hard. The endorphins from the opportunity go away. And then we're like, okay, so when I speak to so-and-so, I start to be worried that as the new person, they think I took away such and such's position. So then I'm not sure. And all of the stories that start to spin in our heads, that wears away at this person's ability to manage the stress. So if it is that at the same time, we have to know that that's what's happening. New people stepping into community, there is an us and a them. This new person is not a part of community yet. Everyone has to be super intentional about integrating this person into community. So it's not like, let this person ask the questions. If they had questions, they should ask it. It is, how do we pursue this person so that they can know what they need to know? We can check in, know what the signals are. And I think this is particularly hard, Candice, in diverse teams and in diverse organizations, because there are centered ways of doing things. So if you see a person not interact in a particular way, an employee in a particular organization said to me that at an office party, after the office party, she was pulled aside and told that she was being antisocial. And it so happened that she had autism and other diagnoses that made the office party more complicated for her in terms of navigating, and she was navigating it as she would navigate it. And the way she navigated it was different than they expected. And then the assumption was that she was being antisocial. So I think that in diverse spaces, the existing us, the people who are already part of the collective, have to be willing to suspend their assumptions about what's going on with this new person and really be curious and really be inviting and really be engaging and really create space for this person to feel like they're part of the team. Now, people have work to do. And because the practices around inclusion and belonging are not the normal part of the workplace, taking extra effort when that's not going to be recognized and validated feels awful. And then somebody's going to judge you because you didn't get something done or something like that. So I think prioritizing the community building, back to the rituals, prioritizing these check-in times, giving space in the work schedule and in the workflow for people to be in community with other people. Since we don't have the water cooler, many of us are virtual, or at least half virtual. We don't have this water cooler, bathroom, ladies' room, restroom check-in points where we can say what's going on. So then what do we do? How do we schedule and create space in our schedules for these check-ins? All of this in the first 2 months, because then this person can start to feel like, oh, I have a community here. I can be vulnerable here. I can feel a little safe here. And then somebody else offering them, people would need to offer them more money to let them leave because they feel connected to you.
It makes me think too about when organizations are interested in doing this work on developing ritual and culture, that is a value of the organization. And so it's talked about a lot, usually through the interview process. And if there's a lot of work to be done on it in the organization, that can be jarring for people. They hear this story of how things are. And then if it's not actually there when they get into the organization, it's like, oh, I don't feel safe here. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. And I need to find another place where I can feel safe. And it takes quite a bit of trust to be able to share things like mental health diagnoses and personal limitations in group settings with employers. It can feel threatening.
Right. And I think that can't be the responsibility of the new person coming in. Like the thing that signals trust and safety, the movements, again, the routines that signal trust and safety have to be lived out consistently by the people who are here. Like this is, we said we value authenticity. And this is us showing that we value authenticity by being authentic. And also checking in with you for consent around certain aspects of our authenticity and saying to you, hey, you can be your authentic self as well. And if those things aren't, like you're saying, actively modeled, then there is this disconnect between what was expressed as the value of the company and then how it's played out. Because in many of the spaces I've worked, many of the companies I've worked with, the values of the company, people spend a lot of time implementing values with clients. And so, yes, we build inclusive communities for the people in those communities. Yes, we are people of our word and integrity to our clients. They can always bring back a product and we will replace it. But among us, we struggle to kind of trust each other and allow each other to be authentic and not feel threatened when people show their true hearts. Like, oh no, you actually dislike me. No, I don't dislike you. I just want to express how this felt to me. So I do think leadership and the existing organization has to model that first, or else it's proven to be a lie. And then of course people leave.
What are some of the other signals of safety for people as they're coming into an organization? How would someone recognize safety? And maybe it's just bodily, but what are things that people can say that will help to create a safe environment?
I think that I don't know if there's anything that we can say. It's safe here is not what we would say. I think it has to be demonstrated. So if I am new to a space and I don't see conflict, I don't think it's safe. It's not safe, right? So it can't just be that we're all kind of, kumbaya. That means that, because we know it's not, that's never the case. So lack of conflict is typically lack of productive conflict. If there's conflict and it's not handled well, so that's the second indicator. Like somebody speaks up in the meeting and they get a clap back, then that definitely shows that, oh, this is what happens when you speak up in a particular way, not in a way that feels disrespectful, just this is what happens when people speak up. So both the lack of conflict and then what happens when somebody expresses something, all of those things indicate if issues with safety. And I think another thing that can signal an issue with safety is only one voice expressing particular things. So you start to see, well, the leader says these things and then these two people speak and then everybody is quiet, then okay, it's not safe. And the equivalent of the silos and the water cooler conversations around topics that happen in the meeting, but then these conversations don't get into the meeting, then you can kind of say, okay, so there's some issues around safety here. And I think you should assume if you belong to a marginalized identity of any sort. So if we're in women or females in the workplace, non-men in the workplace should know that it's probably not safe unless proven to be safe. because then we have
Mhm.
a history of it not being safe. So for workplaces that want to show themselves to be to be safe spaces for marginalized people, then it's the effort to show that it is safe that's going to be needed versus the absence of, no, nothing wrong is happening here, So overt moving towards, overt checking, overt kind of overt bridge building.
That makes me think of a story my grandmother told me from when she started working in the 40s, and she was working for a construction business in the Central Valley of California. And it was just common that the man who owned the company would flirt with all of the women. And she felt like it was her fault. Like she was doing something to make this happen and she had to fix it. And so there's that legacy of how non-male people have been treated in the workplace for so long. Faith and I have put together a couple of resources for you all. The first one is a way to estimate your turnover. It's a turnover calculator, and the link for that is below. The other offering is from Faith, and that is a workshop for you and your team around ways to reduce turnover and how to get at the root cause of it and make it stop. So the links to those are below. There are a couple of questionnaires, and we would love to hear from you if this has sparked an interest in you and might be something that you would like to work on.